And now, Effective Communication with Phil Zeller, CEO, Dale Carnegie, Southwest Michigan.
Well, my friend, we are out there making friends everywhere. Yes, you and I, there are amazing people out there. So there it was, just yesterday. This was yesterday. And I met a new friend. I have a new friend from the great country of Germany. Yes, he was a German, and we were having a conversation. We started a conversation, and what I quickly realized in this conversation was that this man had a lot of experience. He was over here in the United States, and I knew he had a story to tell. And I've shared with you before here on Effective Communication, Phil Zeller, honor and a privilege to have you with us. I've shared with you before that everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody does, if you're willing to listen to it. And so as I'm talking to this gentleman, I took a curiosity in his experience, because obviously with the accent, to me, which would be considered a very strong German accent, fascinating to realize that this person had experienced so much of their life in a different culture, in a different place. And whenever I meet people who are really strong in other culture that have not a chance to assimilate to this new world they're living in, I always find it fascinating to take an interest in them. And my curiosity goes up, and I'm like, this person's going to have just a plethora of information about things that I wouldn't even consider because of where they were born and raised and the culture they grew up in. And so it always fascinates me when you meet different people that grew up in different places. The key is you want to make a connection. And in communication, it's all about getting on that same page and making it effective. Effective means we're on the same page. And the best way to be effective in a conversation is really by becoming a great listener and listening very empathetically to the other person speak. And I know if you're like me, somebody's telling you a good story and they're telling you about something, you're like, yeah, and you want to jump in, right? And you want to pile onto that conversation. You want to tell them about your experience similar to that, right? But the key is you got to bite your tongue. Yeah, this is the hard part, my friend. You got to bite your tongue. I know you want to share. I know you want to jump in. I know you want to say something and tell a story that relates to their story. But the key is, if you really want to build that connection, you got to listen. You got to listen. And as they're sharing the story with you, they start to build a connection with you because they're sharing their story. So as I listened to him share his story, he was talking about his experience in life and what he'd been through. And he shared with me that he'd been married once and that his son now was getting ready to graduate from high school and had some more education to go through. And he was teaching me about the educational process they go through in Germany and where his son's at in the process. And as we talked about this, he opened up more, and I just said, how's that work? Tell me about that. And I just opened up those questions that were just short little questions to seek understanding and be really curious about trying to understand what he was talking about. And as he talked, I watched him visibly with my own eyes get more comfortable in the conversation. And it's an amazing thing to do. You can watch a person do this when they're talking to you. If they're sharing with you and you're really listening, they start to loosen up. They start to actually to trust you because you are paying attention. You are processing what they're saying versus the other situation where you're just waiting to respond. That's not building the trust. That's not building the connection. What truly builds the connection for the person is, wait a minute, this person I'm sharing with, they're really curious. They want to understand. They want to hear me out. They want to understand what I'm saying. They care to listen to what I have to share. And that's reassuring because we as human beings are constantly seeking some type of validation as part of this human race to validate our experience and who we are with other people, being the social creature that we are. So amazingly, during this conversation, I watch him open up and tell me how his life has changed, and now he's in the United States. He's been in Germany his whole life, loves to travel. And because of that trust and because of that relationship and hearing his backstory, he then shared with me what he was doing in the United States and where he was working and kind of feeling out what some of his plans were. And then he started sharing with me kind of asking questions, but not real defined questions, just kind of like dipping your toe in the water type questions. Like, I'm thinking about moving here to this location. And it opened the door for me to ask him a very profound question. Because of all that trust being built in that connection, by listening to him, I asked him the question, what's the one thing that you say you really love here in America that's different? And he said, it's people like you that are curious, that want to understand, that get excited about little things. He goes, that's why I love being in America. How wonderful, wonderful insight. I just want to thank him for sharing that insight with me. And to you, my friend, the insight is be curious and listen, and you'll make a new friend as well.